Hoplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Tara na okay na okay. Hoplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. School-based feeding program ating pagtibayin. Wastong pagkain ating ihahain, mga batang kulang sa timbang. Ating pakakainin ng Go, Grow, and Glow. Adolescent reproductive health ay gawing gabay at patnubay ng batang mausisa ay di maranasan. Ang early pregnancy ay maiiwasan. Kalusugan ay mahalaga sa edukasyon ng mga bata. Tayo na't magkaisa, halina tayo'y sumama. Tara na okay na okay. Hoplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Tara na okay na okay. Hoplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. National Drug Education Program or Ndep kung tawagin. Ito'y paigtingin, mga bisyo'y alisin. Sigarilyo at droga'y dapat nang puksain. Water sanitation and hygiene in schools ating kompletuhin, key stars ay abutin. Malinis na tubig, segregated na toilet, group hand washing at may napkin na rin. Kalusugan ay mahalaga sa edukasyon ng mga bata. Tayo na't magkaisa, halina tayo'y sumama. Tara na okay na okay. Hoplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Tara na okay na okay. Hoplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Medical, dental, and nursing services na ating ding binibigay upang matugunan problemang pangkalusugan ng mga guro at kabataan. School mental health program, kamalayan ito'y bigyang diin. Isipang malusog para sa akin at sa'yo, kabataan at guro, tara usap tayo. Kalusugan ay mahalaga sa edukasyon ng mga bata. Tayo na't magkaisa, halina tayo'y sumama. Tara na okay na okay. Hoplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Tara na okay na okay. Hoplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Tara na okay na okay. Hoplan kalusugan sa DepEd. Halina't alamin atin ang tuklasin, mga health programs ating palaganapin. Okay talaga sa DepEd. Okay talaga sa DepEd.
Dear God, we praise and honor you as the Lord of our lives and the Lord over all the earth and beyond. We pray, O God, for your mercy and forgiveness, especially in times when we forget about you and fail to follow your word. O God, we thank you for coming into our lives and remind us that there is always hope for those who pray and believe. For all that we have, our lives, our work, our families, our neighbors, our co-workers, our friends, and even those against us, for whom we also pray. Thank you. O God, as one family, as one Department of Education, teach us to serve you and your people without counting the cost. Teach us to humble ourselves in the name of public service and serve others above our personal interests. And help us to put our faith in action and see you in everything we do and all those we serve, especially our learners, the heart of DepEd. Guide and lead our learners, teachers, administrators and staff, family, community, and stakeholders to become faithful to our core values of makadiyos, makatao, makakalikasan, and makabansa, and enable us to contribute to building the nation and the world, and to make us worthy stewards of all your creation. We bring back all the glory and honor to you, O Lord, our God. Amen.
Good afternoon. Magandang hapon mga ka-DepEd. Maayong hapon, Nurse Dara. To our Muslim brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. To our Ilocano brothers and sisters, Naimbag ang malam. And to our Bicolano brothers and sisters, Marhay na hapon. Nurse Reyno po, Division Ndep Coordinator of DepEd Bukidnon. Welcome everyone to our 2021 National Drug Education Program Webinar Series Episode 4.
Maayong hapon, Nurse Rino. Maayong hapon, mga ka-DepEd sa Luzon, Visayas ug Mindanao. To our Waray brothers and sisters, maupay nga kulop. To our Cebuano and Ilonggo brothers and sisters, maayong hapon. And to our Chabacano brothers and sisters, buenas noches. Ito po ang 2021 National Drug Education Program Webinar Series, Episode 4, on the topic, the implementation cycle of prevention interventions. Ako po si Nurse Dara Sharon Rosal, Division Ndep Coordinator ng Hingoog City Division. At mga kaibigan, live po tayong napapanood sa Facebook ng DepEd Philippines. And before we proceed, Nurse Rino, we would like to thank the people with the golden voices behind the song Okay Talaga sa DepEd. Sina Ma'am Luz Biminda G. Ikawalo, Ma'am Everdina Heltendest, and Ma'am Elaine Joy Ikawalo. Ito po ay pinerform ni Ma'am Richilyn Mayoral. Maraming salamat po sa inyo sa pag-compose ng napakagandang kanta na Okay Talaga sa DepEd.
Muli, maraming salamat po sa ating mga talentadong guro para sa pagsulat, pagbuo, pagbigay musika at pagganap ng Okay sa DepEd theme song. And to add more to your excitement, may we invite you to explore the exhilarating, captivating, and adventure-loaded tourist attractions in the cities and provinces of Northern Mindanao. Through our short video tour, Biyahing DS. Tara na, dali ka mo sa amihanang Mindanao.
...885 square kilometers with total number of 84 municipalities. DepEd Region 10, Northern Mindanao, covers a total land area of 17,885 square with total number of 84 municipalities and 2022 barangays respectively.
Akong ikuan lang.
So yes, no? Naputol po mayroon po tayong technical problems. So before we continue, no? We would like to remind all the participants, no? Mga Ndep coordinators natin sa registration po ay using po the link na makikita natin. Ipa-flash po yan mamaya ng ating mga ITs, no? Using po the enrollment key na Ndep WSP2. Ito po ay required to access the course sa DepEd Professional Development Learning Management System. So, yun po, gagamitin po yon to access po. So, the participants are only required to register once, no? No need na po to register for the every episode, no? Once lang po mag-register for the entire series.
So ang ating mga presentation materials po ay ma-access, no? Lalong-lalo na yung sa mga resource person, ma-access and downloaded from the Professional Development Learning Management System website every after the webinar or episode. So we are inviting all our DepEd personnel to please don't forget to register.
Okay, so kahit na po naputol yung presentation ng Region 10, no? Ng aming tour. So still, we look forward to seeing you soon in this vast and progressive region, no? Para po ma-experience ninyo ang stunning scenic spots and warmth of its people, no? Pagkatapos po ng pandemic na ito ay pwede na po tayong magsaya, mag-travel at magbakasyon po kayo dito sa aming Amihan ng Mindanao.
So once again, we warmly invite you to visit Amihanang Mindanao.
Yes, you are very much welcome to the home of the Bigatens.
The perfect 10.
One team.
One dream.
One direction.
One region.
Of course, one region.
Moving on, and before we'll proceed to our topic this afternoon, we're fortunate and honored to hear an inspirational message by the gentleman at the forefront in the fight against the perils of drug use and abuse in the country. None less than the brilliant and valiant Executive Director of the Dangerous Drugs Board. A warm virtual applause to Undersecretary Earl P. Saavedra.
Magandang araw po sa inyo lahat. This month's Ndep webinar series is extra special because the rollout coincides with the start of classes for the new year. Sa gitna ng iba, ang bilis ng oras at sadyang maraming pagbabago ang natatanang sa ating paligid. Sa aking monthly sharing sa inyo, gusto kong bigyan ng emphasis ang katagang sustainability. The common concept behind this can be easily interpreted as pag maganda ang naging dula, ipagpatuloy. Sustainability goes hand in hand with institutionalization. Habang pinagpapatuloy natin ang isang magandang adhikain, pinapaabot naman natin ito sa kasuluk-sulukan ng mga komunidad upang magkaroon ng impact ng ating edukasyon. So, these are three words to ponder: sustainability, institutionalization, and impact. Every day we hear stories of redemption, especially from those who were once victims of the illegal campaigns. Dating user na ngayon ay nagbagong buhay na. Dating lulong sa droga na ngayon ay responsableng padre de pamilya. Ano ang nagbigay sa kanila ng pangalawang pagkakataon upang makabangon? Ang sagot ay effective and appropriate interventions. Itong mga nabanggit ko ay napapaloob sa konteksto ng treatment, rehabilitation, and reintegration. Ngunit pangarap natin na mas manaignawa tayo sa hakbang ng drug abuse prevention. Mainam na maisalba natin ang bawat Pilipino sa problema ng paggamit ng iligang droga kesa yung naabutan na lang natin na lumok na sila sa bisyo at kailangan ng gamot. Time and again, this is the reason why we never give up on the value of preventive education. Just imagine the impact of the messages we resonate when our efforts are matched with civic awareness, community engagement, rights-based programs, and timely advocacy. Bawat isa kayang mag-ambag sa mga gawain. As I genuinely thank the Department of Education for staying true to its commitment to continue advocating for Ndep, I appeal to our listeners, both educators and students, to help us rally and carry on with the anti-drug slogan of aiming for a drug-free Philippines. Patuloy po nating hangarin ang mabuting kalusugan ng lahat sa pamamagitan ng payo at maraming salamat.
Yes, thank you very much, Yusik Earl, for being with us always in the Department of Education, no, in our pursuit of a drug-free, healthy school, and healthy community. Mabuhay po kayo, Yusik Earl, ang Dangerous Drug Boards at ang Sambayanang Pilipino.
To officially open our event this afternoon, our Chief of the School Health Division of the Bureau of Learner Support Services, Department of Education, a lady of integrity, dedication, and compassion. She has been in the Department of Education for decades, advancing the welfare of our learners and personnel through optimum health and nutrition. A virtual applause to Dr. Maria Corazon C. Dumlao.
Magandang hapon sa mga masusugid nating taga-subaybay ng ating Ndep webinar series. We are now on our 4th episode and I am happy and grateful to everyone who continue to join us in this learning journey on preventive drug education. Last time, our topic was going the distance online delivery of drug education. I hope that we all appreciated the importance of continuing drug education despite these challenging times of the pandemic, using other modalities such as online platforms. Today is another exciting day because we will talk about the implementation cycle of prevention interventions. The topic is actually part of the core content of the Universal Prevention Curriculum for managers and supervisors. The objective of this session is to describe the implementation cycle as a framework for implementation of evidence-based interventions. This will serve as a guide in ensuring that your prevention programming is anchored on the right processes and will be sustainable through proper identification and adoption of the implementation steps in each phase of the implementation cycle. This will also enhance your skills and competencies needed to be an effective and efficient prevention professional. I am thankful na napagbigyan na naman tayo ng ating speaker who is an expert of this topic. He is one of the global master trainer in the Universal Prevention Curriculum. And nakakasama po natin siya palagi in various activities of DDB and of our international partners for prevention. So friends, let's make this afternoon a fruitful and productive day for all of us. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Yes, no? Daghang salamat, Dr. Dumlao. The entire Department of Education is really privileged of having you as one of our champions in the health and nutrition. Maraming salamat po, Dr. Dumlao.
Nurse Dara, since live po tayo na napapanood sa DepEd Philippines Facebook page at of course sa YouTube, as of now, mayroon na tayong maraming viewers at marami na rin comments sa ating comment section. Wow na wow talaga. Okay talaga sa DepEd. Para sa inyong mga feedback, mga ka-DepEd, as we are about to give the virtual floor to our resource speaker for this significant topic, we inform and request you to post or type your questions, comments, and other feedbacks through the link provided and shown on the screen. To introduce our distinguished resource speaker, Nurse Dara will do the honor.
Okay po. Thank you, Nurse Reno. Our speaker for this afternoon's webinar series is currently the President and Executive Pastor of Life in Jesus Evangelistic Mission Church International, a producer and anchor of Life in Jesus program online, airing from Monday to Sunday in 3 simultaneous platforms. He is one of the first batch of global trainers of the Colombo Plan International Center for Certification and Education of Addiction Professionals, under the course Universal Prevention Curricula, in which trainings were held in Manila, Philippines, Cape Town, South Africa, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Singapore, Colombo, and Sri Lanka. A former head of the Human Resource Management Office and director of the National Service Training Program o Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Muntinlupa. A lifetime member of the United Nations Association of the Philippines or UNAP, and convener of the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th International Youth Day Celebration and Conference in the Philippines. He also represented the United Nations Associations of the Philippines and was the head of the delegations during the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Asia-Pacific Model United Nations Conference in Beijing, China, New Delhi, India, Incheon, Korea in 2004, 2006, and 2008. He is also a graduate of the Regional Training Workshops for Demand Reduction of the International Law Enforcement Academy of the U.S. Department of State in Bangkok, Thailand. A graduate of education at Muntinlupa Polytechnic College, now Pamantasan Lungsod ng Muntinlupa. Earned units of MA in Education, major in Social Studies at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. Completed his academic requirements in Masters in Business Administration at Pamantasan Lungsod ng Muntinlupa. A graduate of Bachelor of Theology, Masters of Divinity, Master of Arts in Christian Ministries, and Doctor of Divinity at the Send the Light Bible College. He also received Certificate of Achievements as one of the ambassadors for peace during the International Leadership Conference held last May of 2007. This is held in Washington Plaza Hotel in Washington, D.C. He was also named an Outstanding Youth Service Awardee of UNAP in the year 2003, a former president of the National Youth Coordinating Council of the Dangerous Drugs Board of 2001. He was also named an Outstanding Student in 1997 and elected Sangguniang Kabataan Councilor in 1996. He is the servant of the Lord and a full-time pastor. Ladies and gentlemen, let us all welcome him with a virtual round of applause, Pastor Little Jones B. Espeleta.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Ma'am Dara, and thank you, Sir Reyno. Thank you for giving me the opportunity, to be part of this program. And I'm glad to be back because last year, meron din tayong episode, this is continuing education despite of the pandemic. We are happy that during our time, this pandemic happened with the advent of technology,
Yes
with
po.
the internet. Imagine that if there is no internet, no platform like this, how can we reach out, for our people, particularly in the Department of Education? It would be very, very difficult, So kaya we are thankful, despite of that God allowed it to happen in our time, that we have this kind of platform. So we are continuously, reaching our people, particularly our students, and in case like this is continuing education among our professionals, both in the teaching and non-teaching personnel. And before we start, I'd like to give my respect to Secretary Liling Briones. Alam nyo, panahon nito ni Secretary, nung siya po ay din pa ng NCPAG, I attended one of her presentation. And I invited her, during our international youth conference. We hosted the third international youth conference here in the Philippines, in our school. Hindi ho nagdalawang isip yan si Secretary. We just communicated through email, and then she said, yes, I will come. So I was very, very happy at that time to have her. And now I am really happy, to work with you. And our organization, UNAP, awarded DepEd last year, as recipient of the very prestigious award of UNAP, United Nations Association of the Philippines. Ito yung Carlos P. Romulo Award natin. Kaya congratulations to the Department of Education. And also, I'd like to greet the Secretary of the Dangerous Drugs Board, Secretary Catalino Puy, sir. Good afternoon. At kanina si Yusik Earl Saavedra, ang Executive Director ng Dangerous Drugs Board, ay nakasama natin. So good afternoon, sir. And to my friend and classmate, in the Universal Prevention course, Dr. Maria Corazon Dumlao, yan, napakasipag nating Chief ng Health Division ng Department of Education. Kami ho'y laging magkasama, sa mga capability building at saka sa mga iba't iba pang mga seminar. In fact, we are currently doing training with the Philippine National Police and PIDEA. They are also undergoing kind of training like this, ang Universal Prevention course. And we also recently finished, the media-based prevention intervention. Ito yung online course na inoffer ng Colombo Plan Drug Advisory Program. Kaya we are inviting you, lalo especially our Ndep coordinators, yung mga nag-graduate na sa Introduction to Prevention Science, School-Based Prevention Intervention. Mag-member po kayo ng ISOP, yung International Society of Substance Use Prevention Professionals. Kasi pag tayo nag-member doon, we can have the opportunity, to upgrade ourselves and to connect internationally, as prevention professionals. All right, so I am tasked to give to you the basic components, of the implementation cycle. So shall we have our PowerPoint? Again, thank you, Ma'am Dara and Sir Reyno.
Welcome po.
Okay, so as Dr. Corazon Dumlao said a while ago in her introduction, that this implementation cycle for prevention interventions is one of the modules, in the UPC core course, for managers and supervisors. Kaya ang tawag diyan ay kasama siya doon sa curriculum series for implementers. Now, you will see that we have the flag of the United States simply because they are the one who funded, the creation of this course through the U.S. Department of States, the INL, the International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs, through the Colombo Plan Drug Advisory Program. So I also give our respect, to Natalie Panaboke, the Acting Director of the Colombo Plan Drug Advisory Program. Okay, so let's move into the next slide. Now, our learning objectives is to describe the implementation cycle as a framework, no, for the implementation of evidence-based interventions. For our Ndep coordinators, some of our nurses and doctors and dentists that we have in the Department of Education, kasama po ako ni Dr. Lau sa ating pag-ikot sa ating mga regional training. Sila ho ay meron ng tinatawag na knowledge and skills in relation to of course concepts in the prevention course, prevention science. And here we are going to look at the implementation cycle as our guide in conducting prevention work. In other words, babalikan ko na naman yung lagi kong sinasabi sa training, hindi tayo gagawa dito ng tinatawag nating one-time, big-time event. Kasi pormero, ang nakasanayan natin talaga, tawagin lahat ng estudyante, let's do drug symposium, may speaker tayo, we have invited our experts, doctors, minsan may testimony po, former drug user. Tapos after nun, uwian na. Hindi natin na nakuha kung ano yung mga necessary data, information of our audiences, no? Ano ba, saan ba silang target population? Ano ba sila? At risk ba sila? Vulnerable ba sila? Etc. So those are things that we need to look into, no? And then identify the implementation steps, no, in each phase of the cycle. So mamaya makita natin ano ba yung mga necessary informations or steps or data o mga datos na kailangan nating maintindihan sa ating prevention program. And then practice some of the skills needed to implement the cycle. Since I'm only given 1 hour, no, I'm afraid that we won't be able to cover everything, but I will try my best to give you kung ano yung kailangan nating makita dito. Kasi aside from this module, the next module is still continuation of the implementation cycle. Yung module 8 is looking at the necessary skills for prevention practitioners. Okay, so let's move to the next slide. Now, from the science to practice, remember that in any other field, it is an equal interaction between practice and research. Kaya nadidevelop yung ating field, for example, dito sa atin sa prevention science natin, because those who are in the implementation, doing the practice in the implementation, ang importante with documents, tinitingnan natin lahat ng mga informations, observations, mga datos na nakukuha natin. Tapos ini-inform natin yung people in the research so that they could help us to be able to develop more our prevention work. Kaya tinawag na natin ito na evidence-based prevention intervention because this is product of 30 to 40 years research. Imagine, mga collection, if you are looking at our slide, we have there the literature of evidence-based prevention interventions and policies. And then, syempre, those who have undergone the previous training on Curriculum 2, we have Physiology and Pharmacology for Prevention Practitioners. Naintindihan natin yung pharmacology of substances and the brain because, substances including alcohol and tobacco and psychoactive substances, ang kanyang naaapektuhan is the CNS or the central nervous system. So, napaka-importante na alam din natin to as prevention professionals. And then, lahat ng evidence-based program na tinatawag, this is anchored on different theories. Yung tinatawag natin na prevention science principles, that is what based on theories. Kaya iba't iba yung mga theory natin na kung saan in-anchored yung ating pong evidence-based program. For example, we have the theory of planned behavior, we have the theory of Abraham Maslow's, we have theory of Erik Erikson, and so on. That helps in the design formulation of our evidence-based program. So kasama yon sa tinatawag natin na Universal Prevention Curricula Critical Themes. And then, we do training. Kaya doon sa umpisa pa lang ng Universal Prevention Curricula, this is Curriculum 1 to 9. One is introduction, and then we have 2, physiology and pharmacology, no, or prevention science, and then we have this what we call monitoring and evaluation. We have family, di ba? We have school, and we have the workplace. Okay, so and then we have the media, we have the environment wherein we do policy making, and then we up to community, no, sa C9. And then dahil alam natin yung mga iba't ibang interventions that targets different settings, ang importante dito ngayon is kailangan backup tayo ng tinatawag nating basic components ng implementation cycle. So ito ngayon yung ating titignan. So the prevention practitioners or professionals must be trained, no, in this field. Sabi nga nung isang professor doon sa Dominican Republic, prevention is really sophisticated work. Akala natin basta lang tayo mag-invite ng mga estudyante, ng mga tao sa community in our drug symposium, pero napaka-sophisticated ng prevention. No, katulad din to sa treatment. Kung sa treatment side, merong case identification, and then merong assessment kung ano yung dapat ibigay sa kanya na intervention, no, in terms of treatment, no. Tapos hanggang sa makarating sa doon sa aftercare na tinatawag. Sa prevention, ina-identify natin yung target population natin. Universal ba siya, selective, or indicated? Ina-assess natin. So later makikita natin yon. So what I'm trying to point out is that we trained our professionals and we also trained them, no, to the code of ethics. Kaya meron tayong mga ethical consideration, no, as prevention practitioners. Kasi nga, especially ngayon, meron tayong tinatawag na Data Privacy Act. So we must act, no, on the code of ethics na ang isa doon is yung issue ng confidentiality, no, of your client. So let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so who has the big idea about preventing substance use? Maaring si Mayor wants to do an anti-smoking campaign. Maaring merong mga TV celebrities, alam natin to, marami tayong nakikita ng mga celebrities, no, na kinukuha sila as a sports figure at sila yung ginagawang volunteer, no, to talk to our young people in relation to substance use. O meron naman ng mga former users who want to pay back, no, to their society by speaking at schools with their prevention message. So sino nga kaya yung mas merong malaking idea about preventing substance use? I remember when I was the president of the National Youth Coordinating Council on Drug Abuse Prevention, nag-a-appear kami sa mga iba't ibang mga activities. It so happened that I was invited sa Channel 4. May nakasabay ako isang celebrity during the time of President Estrada yon. Di ba? Kasi may nahuli na celebrity sa airport na nahulihan siya ng droga. So pagbalik niya dito sa Pilipinas, ang kanyang gagawin is paying back, na siya ay magkakandak ng tinatawag na pagsama sa mga drug symposium. So, siyempre celebrity, gusto natin makita siya unang-una. Pangalawa, we wanted to hear the message, no, yung kanyang tinatawag na prevention message. Ang question ngayon, ano ba yung prevention message nila? 'Di ba? Akala natin okay lang 'yon sa panahon na 'yon. Pero hindi pala 'yon evidence-based. Sabi ng prevention science, hindi siya evidence-based kasi it might be sending wrong message, no, to our young people. Okay naman pala, no? Magdroga ako ngayon, tomorrow, the following weeks or months, okay na ako ulit. So hindi pala ganoon, because we are sending the wrong message and we are now doing it, no, on the right way. Right? So next slide, let's look at the next slide. Okay? So this time, no, makikita na natin yung ating mga basic components ng implementation cycle. This is from the planning cycle of the European Drug Prevention Quality Standards, no? And we have adopted this one, and this is to better reflect, no, a general implementation of our work, no, in the prevention field. Now, let us look at the colored boxes that we have here, and let's talk about each one of them, no? And first, we see in the dark green box, the needs and resource assessment. Now, for those who are studying probably a business, parang familiar sa inyo yung mga concept, but this is entirely different in the field of prevention. So in this first step, we will be asking the following questions. What is the substance use problem in the community? Who is involved in using them? What are the factors that related to the initiation of the use of substances? So that is under the needs and resource assessment. For the next box, we have the selection of evidence-based interventions and or policies. So once the substance use problem is defined and assessed, so we do a review of evidence-based prevention, interventions, or policies using existing prevention programming registries to identify those that have shown effectiveness in solving or combating this problem similar to those of our community. So may binanggit doon na registries. Meron ho tayong tinatawag na repository of evidence-based prevention intervention. If you are not going to design, then you can look into the available evidence-based intervention. But what we are saying is that if you have an existing program, you can continue with your existing program, but what we want you to do is to practice the monitoring and evaluation concepts of prevention prevention science or prevention intervention. Now, let's move on to the preparation and implementation of the intervention and or policy. So this phase requires making all the arrangement to assure that the target group is recruited, that the intervention implementers, yung mga makakasama natin na mag-i-implement ng intervention, they are trained, they are confident about delivering the intervention well, and that measures have been taken to monitor the quality of the delivery of the prevention intervention. Now, moving on, the red box, this is the outcomes. These include the short-term beliefs or attitudes or skills, while the long-term outcomes will include actual substance-using behaviors, halimbawa, mga type of substance and frequency of use, or other significant behavior such as academic performance, yung involvement, for example, of our children or students or learners in the issue of delinquency, o maaring yung mga issues of absenteeism. Now, anong dahilan? Bakit sila nasa ganong klase ng behavior? And then we also have the dissemination and improvement. This is conducted after the intervention has been delivered to review the results of the monitoring or evaluation and determine if changes are needed as to how the intervention was delivered. So kung kailangan ba natin itong ituloy? Are we going to sustain this one? O kamusta naman yung resulta? For example, for instance, perhaps only some members of the targeted population participated throughout the full intervention. So we do a review of the results of monitoring, and this may indicate that revisions need to be made. Kailangan nating magkonting revision sa implementation ng ating program, or maybe in terms of recruitment of those who are to benefit from our intervention. And what about the retention processes? Now, for the monitoring and evaluation, which is the blue box sa baba, this step underlies the whole process and needs to be implemented from the very beginning and return to key points throughout of our implementation cycle. Now, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, we are supposed to do this if we are going to do a face-to-face, but let's look at the first box that we have. So this succeeding slides that we have, we are going to dissect kung ano ba yung mga nilalaman nitong mga gagawin natin. So first, every community has some unique characteristics that inform prevention programming. So what questions do we ask as we assess our community? Number one, we see there, what are its strengths? Ano ba yung lakas ng community? where the school is located, for example, since we are in the school. Ano ba yung strength? Nagkakaisa ba yung mga tao dyan? Okay, so meron ba diyang homeowners association that supports program of school? No, things like that. Do we have our barangay officials who has the badaks that could probably of help to us? Ano? In fact, the principal is member of this Barangay Anti-Drug Abuse Council, no, under the memorandum circular of the Department of Interior and Local Government. So meron tayong mga duty na ganon. Baka yun ang strength natin. O baka naman in a certain community, we have businesses that could probably fund, no, our prevention programming. So things like that. Where are there impediments for evidence-based prevention programming? Pag ba tayo nag-implement ng evidence-based program, meron bang possible na magiging barrier? So you're assessing, no? Tinitignan mo na meron bang pwedeng maging impediments for the implementation of an evidence-based prevention intervention. What does the substance use picture look like? Okay, so ano sa tingin mo ang magiging itsura ng yung tinatawag na substance use situation? Ano ba ang substance na ginagamit diyan? Ano ba yung talamak diyan? What information is available to make this assessment? How is substance use viewed by the community? Baka mamaya itinatago pala ng community kasi yung mga anak nila, mga magkakapitbahay, mga anak pala nila yung gumagamit ng ipinagbabawal na gamot. Ano? So baka may resistance pagpasok mo doon. O kung sa school naman, how is the school community in relation to substance use? Are there particular groups that you want to address first? Who are the vulnerable groups? Pag sinabing vulnerable groups, ano ba yan? Mga adolescents ba yan? Mga adults na ba yan? Mga elementary, high school students ba yan? Are the particular groups that you want to address first? Sila ba? Itong mga nandito sa group age na to? Who are the vulnerable groups? Why do you consider them vulnerable? What environmental factors influence these vulnerable individuals and groups? Remember, in our introduction to prevention science, we have the etiology model that we have the person, the individual, and the individual's micro and macro level environment. So now, so that is looking at the situation in the community. The next slide, no, is going to define the needs assessment and the resource assessment. Now, in the needs assessment, so in order to find real answer, no, to these questions, we conduct a needs and resource assessment. So needs assessment is a systematic method for reviewing substance use issues facing a particular group of people, which will lead to agreed upon ano yung mga priorities and the resources allocation, no, in order to implement a substance use prevention intervention. So these groups include students in a school, kasama yung mga nanay nila, mga magulang nila, mothers that receive prenatal care, infants that attend this is what we call baby clinics, adolescents with mental health issues, up to whole communities, no, the entire community. So the focus is understanding the epidemiology of substance use within the target population and how extensive is the problem and what substances are being used. Remember, we have the three legs of prevention science, namely epidemiology and etiology. No, we have intervention and policy development, and we have research methodologies. So, dun pa lang sa pag-assess natin ng community, we're using the epidemiological approach, no? At saka yung approach natin, investigating the origin, the cause of the problem, saan to nanggagaling, paano to lumalaganap, no, sa isang komunidad. And then, the next one is resource assessment. This is to determine the available resources, no, including the humans, no, yung mga human capital, the people that we need, no, in the prevention intervention, financial, no, pangangailangang pinansyal na kailangan natin dito, institutional and political, as well as the interactions among them to help determine what type of intervention or policy is most feasible, no, in our community. and in our school in particular. Okay, so if we have problem in terms of funding, then we do resource mobilization. Okay, kaya kasama din doon sa ating magiging stakeholders yung mga NGOs that funds activities. In the next slide is understanding the prevention need. So, now looking at this slide, in short, a needs and resource assessment enables a prevention professional or practitioners to know the prevalence and initiation of the problem. Pag sinabing prevalence, how many are using what substances? Pag sinabing incidence, who is beginning the use of what substances? Okay? Pag tinignan natin yung service need, what types of prevention interventions are needed? Diba? Kaya hindi lang tayo basta naisip nating mag-symposium, yun na lang yung symposium na lang gagawin natin palagi o seminar na lang lagi ang gagawin natin. So ina-identify natin yung target population natin, iniimbestiga natin saan sila kabilang doon sa tinatawag na target population. Universal, pag sinabing universal, general target population, you don't know the risk, it's a combination of those, resolute user, resolute non-user, and vulnerable non-user, including the users. Okay, so universal yon. Pag selective, ito na yung mga at risk. Pwede silang mga anak ng mga substance user. Pag naman indicated, the user sila, they started using but not yet developing disorder. So ganun yung pag-identify natin. Okay, so understanding the problem of who is involved will then serve to inform the prevention professionals' assessment about the existing services. What existing prevention interventions are available for this particular group? Are they reaching the target populations? Are these evidence-based prevention interventions or policies is suited for this group of audience? Are there existing social or health programs available in which evidence-based prevention interventions can be integrated? Because when we have prevention intervention, we can also embed it to the existing platform. Diba? Kasi malimit sasabihin sa atin sa school, meron kaming school calendar. Hindi pwedeng pakialaman yung school calendar namin. So if that is the case, the strategy that a prevention coordinator or implementer could do is to look into the possibility of embedding the program to the existing platform. O meron ba kayong health and nutrition month? O dito natin gawin yung ating prevention intervention. Things like that. No? So, pwedeng ganun ang gagawin natin. Now, in slide 7.10, what type of information can be collected and how? Tandaan natin sa ating pong community assessment, doon sa ating tinatawag na needs assessment and resource assessment, kukuha tayo ng mga datos. We're now going to review the different types of information that would be helpful to assess community needs and resources and the methods that can be used to collect those information. So, we have types of information to collect para doon sa mga professors or teacher natin sa education. Parang refresher course natin ito sa research. So, we have types of information to collect. So, first, we have this what we call the quantitative data. And quantitative data are described in numbers and shows how often something occurs or to what degree a phenomenon exists. Pag na mga qualitative data, ito ay descriptive. Qualitative data are described in words and explains why people behave or feel the way they do. Now, looking at the quantitative data, let's go to the next slide. Sa quantitative data, to elaborate it further, quantitative data provide measures of quantity. How many persons, aged 12 to 17 years of age, ever use cannabis or marijuana or whatever type of substance? So, kung meron kang ganong klase ng datos na gusto mong kunin, No? So, hahanapin mo talaga yon. Bibilangin mo kasi sinasabi ilan ba yung 12 to 17 years old? No? Mula halimbawa sa isang elementary school, halimbawa itaas elementary school. No? Meron ba diyan 12 to 17 years old na nagte-take ng marijuana? So, hahanapin natin yon. Ang mabigat doon, paano natin hahanapin later? Makikita natin how we are going to look into those data. So this type of data measure levels of behavior and trends over time. Quantitative data, these are objective. This data is standardized. And usually, this can easily be analyzed, no? As they are standardized and they can be collected across communities and groups, and this can be collected over time. So examples of quantitative data, we have survey or records, we have archival data, we have also structured observations, so as you can see in your screen. Now, next slide, we have here the chart that could somehow explain to us. This chart is a survey data from the Monitoring the Future study, a study that has been conducted by the University of Michigan since 1975. They are using this. But the data that we have here is from 1991 to 2015. The estimated percentage of the 8th, 10th, and 12th grade students smoking cigarettes in past 30 days. No? And what kind of data is this? Ano bang kind of data ito? Pwede nyo i-type sa inyong chat box. Sige po, anong klase ng data itong nakikita po ninyo? Type it to your chat box, type it to our comment box. Anong type of data ito? Okay, let me see. Alright, so I want you to engage. Anong type of data itong nakikita ninyo sa screen? Ayan. So, let's see. Tingnan natin kung sino yung mga magsagot diyan. What type of data can you see right now, no, from your screen? Okay. So, puro mga I'm watching from yan, sa mga places nila. Anyway, ayun, may sumagot na. Quantitative data. Thank you, Claudette. No? Claudette Gutierrez, Cabalya. Quantitative data, sabi ni Gladys. Ayan, sabi naman ni Larry, sabi ni wala na ako sa ayan, sabi ni Carmela, quantitative. Yeah, you're right, you're correct. This is what? This is quantitative data. So this survey is administered annually. Taon-taon ginagawa nila to, no, sa University of Michigan. And this survey is approximately 50,000 students who attend a representative sample of public and private schools in the United States. What we see here are the percentage of students who smoke cigarettes, no, in 30 days prior to the survey. So bago sila survey, meron na silang smoking of cigarette. So the dark blue line represents 8th grade students, no? These are their responses, yung kulay blue. So sino tong mga to? These are students ages 13 to 14 years old. Imagine, 13 to 14 years old, nag-smoke sila. And then the pink line, the 10th grade student responses. These are students ages 15 to 16 years old. At yung orange line naman, no, is the 12th grade students. No? This belonging to 17 and 18 years old. So we see that smoking cigarettes, no, increase for all age groups, no, in the mid-1990s. Tingnan niyo yung trajectory of their use, yung peak of their use, no, you can see that. So the increase of all the ages is in the mid-1990. But then there is what we call the dramatically decrease, no, in the late 1990s. Ayan, in the late 1990s. Siguro, nasa high school ako niyan. First year ata ako yan, second year high school. So, 1990s. And throughout the first period of the 21st century. So, ngayon, I'd like to ask you, and you can comment to our comment box, why do you think cigarette use increase Sa tingin po ninyo. Okay. Bakit kaya nag-increase? Okay, so the reason why it increased, it is generally thought that in the 1980s, no, the tobacco companies increased the advertising, paying television, radio, targeting adolescents. Dumami talaga yung mga advertisements sa TVs, radio. Kaya nagkaroon ng trajectory na pagtaas. Tapos, makikita naman natin, meron namang dramatic decrease, late or early o late 90s, no? Nagkaroon ng dramatic decrease. Why? Because it is generally thought the decreases were associated with prevention efforts such as smoking bans, increased prices of cigarette, and they are doing counter advertising, no? Kinokontra nila yung mga pag-advertise ng mga mga cigarette companies. Ngayon wala na tayong masyadong nakikita ng mga advertisement. In fact, wala na nga sa TV, no, sa sigarilyo. Pinagbabawal na. And you in the Department of Education, you are not allowed to engage partnering, no, with the tobacco and alcohol industry. So nagkaroon talaga ng pagbaba ng paggamit, dito sa mga substance na ito. Now, moving on. When we look at data collection methods, no, so we said that we have quantitative and qualitative data. Next slide. So, kailangan natin to, no, hindi lang quantitative, hindi lang din qualitative, kundi both quantitative and qualitative. And our example is, of course, we have archive or official records, no, population-based surveys. Meron tayong household surveys. Dangerous Drugs Board is doing household surveys. We have student surveys, and we have special population survey. And then back up by also key informant interviews. We have focus group discussion. We have ethnographic studies and so on. Now, next slide. Pagdating sa mga archives or next slide po tayo, archives or official records, ito yung mga data that are available through routine records and reports from government, health or social services. Next slide, please. Agencies and organizations that relate to the consequences of substance use. Next slide. So ano yung mga sources ng ating pong mga data na to, itong mga archives or official records? So meron tayong admissions to treatment programs, meron tayong arrest information, we have emergency department admissions, we have medical examiner or coroner, mga embalsamador ng mga reports nila if they are required to do reports to poison control or toxicology centers. We have reports on infectious diseases, and we have also school reports of absenteeism, use of alcohol, tobacco, or drugs. Okay, next slide. In looking at archival data, syempre meron tayong tinatawag na pros and cons pa rin sa mga pagkuha ng mga datos na to. Okay, so una yung positive thing, tingnan natin. Since they are generally collected routinely by another organization, they are inexpensive to access. This is easily accessible. They tend to be readily available, and although sometimes one needs to gain permission to use them, once the identifying information such as name or address is removed, then permission is easily obtained. Lalo ngayon, meron tayong Data Privacy Act, so we need to follow the provisions of the law in obtaining data or information. So data are also what we call unobtrusive, no, as they are collected in the course of an organization's routine activities, such as school record of absenteeism. We also have arrest records, no, those who are violating the rules or policy of the school. Other police information. We have hospital admissions, treatment and admissions, and many more. So they also provide quantitative data on quantity or frequency, such as number of arrests, number of suspensions from school, as the same information is collected over a time period. They provide a historical perspective on the issue. Now, on the cons of this archival data, there may be a bias built into the collection of information that slants the type and nature of information collected. For instance, if the mayor of a certain town thinks substance use is becoming a public nuisance, she may ask the police chief to put more police officers on the street to arrest substance users. So thus increases in arrest may just be an artifact of having this as priority and having more eyes on the streets. So meaning to say, you're not really going getting the right picture of the information. Another disadvantage is that this data may not include all the required information. For instance, if you are interested in a history of substance use in the community, kasi epidemiologic study tayo, di ba? That information most likely will be unavailable from arrest records or even hospital emergency department admission. So you are looking at the right information, the right data to back up your designing and planning of the intervention. So finally, the population for which data are available may not be representative of the population you want to reach. You may be interested in substance use among household populations or even students. Hence, arrest data will only provide a part of that information. Or you may be interested in an archival measure of drunk driving that does not depend on police records. Halimbawa, ang may hawak pala niyan, yung mga LTO. So, it really depends. What we are trying to say is that you must be concerned and know kanino nyo kinukuha yung data. Makakatulong ba sa atin yon? Okay, next. Gumagamit din tayo sa quantitative data ng mga survey natin. Next slide. Survey provide a means of measuring a population's characteristics, yung mga self-reported and observed behavior, awareness of programs, attitudes, or opinions and needs. So, and then, tingnan natin ano ba yung mga napapaloob pa sa surveys. So, we use samples to represent a portion of population of interest. Kailangan exact representation of people living in a certain community, for example. Now, with a school, dapat maayos yung ating sampling. Our researchers would help us in looking into the samples. Kaya nga sa prevention team mo, mag-i-invite ka ng mga people who are really keen to research because they will help us in gathering information and data. So require complex statistical processes to select a representative population, and surveys assist in the measurement of changes over time in key characteristics of interest when repeated at regular intervals, and also provide invaluable information for planning and evaluating government policies and programs. Now, ito yung mga survey methods natin. It can be self-administered. Okay? Pwedeng email, bibihira na yung nagme-mail. Ngayon, in the advent of technology, web-based na ginagamit, computerized, or yung ginagamit yung internet surveys like SurveyMonkey. Si Google, meron na rin siyang mga survey. We can develop our own instrument, survey. But because of pandemic, wala tayong face-to-face. Bibihira naman din yung gumagawa ng telephone survey. Lagi natin ginagamit yung nakasulat na self-administered and we make use of the internet. That can be. So you can see here in the next slide ano yung mga pros and cons ng survey. Siyempre, ang pros niya uses representative samples. It provides prevalence and incidence rates of substance use in the population. It provides correlates to and consequences of substance use. And it has precision, diba? Kasi standardized siya, instrument, tool instrument. Standardized scientific methods are being used, and patterns in substance use in the same population over time can be reported. Now, the cons here is yung mga new surveys, of course, this is expensive. Lalo na kung igagawin natin ay mag-survey tayo face-to-face. Magpupunta sa isang lugar, mag-uutos ka ng mga tao makuha ng datos, babayaran mo yun. Expensive talaga yun. And then special training needed. And the problem here is that may omit chronic substance users. Kailangan din, ititrain mo nga yung kailangan mahusay siya sa pagkuha ng datos. Paano kung evasive pagdating sa mga information? So, mapektuhan na yung datos mo. may miss other hidden groups such as street children. And then for existing surveys, data may be irrelevant for the population of interest. So need to investigate and assess how the study was designed and conducted. Now let's go to the next slide. For the key informant interviews, ano naman ito? So kung meron ka ng archival data, you have the data, standardized yung ginamit na tool, tapos gusto mo pa rin na talagang to be able to see kung yung bang datos na nakuha mo ay maayos, you use the key informant interviews. Ito na yung tinatawag na qualitative data or analysis. No? What are they? This is in-depth interviews of 15 to 35 people selected for their first-hand knowledge about a topic of interest. So normally this is loosely structured and relying on all lists of issues to guide the discussion. If you are the prevention implementer serving as the moderator for the key informant interview or FGD, later on we'll see the FGD. So pwede mo na ding i-jot down ano ba yung mga gusto mong itanong. Pwede mo din naman itong ibigay na ahead of time eh. Lalo na if you are looking into factual information no, that you would like to get. And assemble a conversation among acquaintances allowing free flow of ideas and information. So interviewers frame questions spontaneously and probe for information and take notes to be elaborated on later. No? So getting the information and then you are going to, look into the meaning of the information that you got. Now, key informant interviews are useful. Next slide. Okay, that's it. So when needed information about pressing issue or problem in the community is there, no? So you want to understand the motivation and beliefs of community residents on a particular issue and require information from people with diverse backgrounds and opinions and have to discuss sensitive topics, get respondents, candid thought on a topic, or to get more in-depth answers. So that's the reason why you are using key informant interviews. Again, next slide, explain about the pros and cons. So look at the screen. So we have there that the pros is detailed and rich data can be gathered in a relatively easy and inexpressive way versus selecting the right key informants representing diverse background and viewpoints may be difficult. And then up to the last, I will not be reading one by one, but you see, this can raise awareness, interest, and enthusiasm around an issue. However, there is what we call difficult to generalize results to the larger population unless interviewing many key informants. Because one person, halimbawa sa isang community, tinanong mo, hindi naman siya representation talaga ng kabuuan eh. Unless talaga na he is the right person to get the information. Okay, so next. We go to FGD or the focus group discussion. A focus group is a small group discussion guided by a trained leader used to learn more about opinions on a designated topic and then guides future action. Next slide. You see the pros and cons for the focus groups. Kita natin na ang focus group are flexible ito. It finds finding have face validity, provide quick results. This is inexpensive and can include people who are unable to read or write. Kaya yung mga hindi kaya magsulat, tatanungin mo nga sila. No? Sa kung ano sinasabi nila, you get the information. But the cons is you need the facilitator. No? Facilitator does not always have control over the session. Okay, kaya kasi free-flowing yan. Dire-diretso. Hindi katulad ng key informant interviews, meron ka ng mga sinulat yan. Facilitator requires training. Information that is gathered is often difficult to analyze. Okay, next slide. Another way of getting information is what we call the ethnographic studies. Ano ba itong ethnographic studies? Ang ethnography is a social science method developed within cultural anthropology for studying communities in natural settings. Ang ginagawa naman ng mga researchers dyan, talagang tumitira sila doon sa community. Titira sila ng 6 months to 1 year. Okay? Para ma-study nila yung community. Ang mga gumagawa nito, yung mga nag-study ng community development, they do it, no? Especially those in the anthropology. Okay, ethnographic studies are based on rigorously defined observations. Now, let's move on. Ethnographic studies, when are they used? To define an unclear or complex issues or problem, or when it is embedded in multiple systems or sectors. Okay? Hindi naman tayo masyadong gagawa nito pagdating sa prevention. Ang gumagawa nga, sabi ko sa inyo, yung mga nag-study talaga ng in-depth study on community development. So, I will not discuss this slide anymore. Let's proceed to the next slide. All right. Next slide again. Okay. Now, let's proceed. This is very important. Isipin nyo, nandito pa lang tayo sa pangalawa. Ang dami na natin na pag-usapan. Now, let's go to this slide. This is about selecting selection of evidence-based interventions and policies. So ano ba tong gagawin natin sa slide na to? Okay. Now, titingnan natin yung registries. Next slide. Sabi ko sa inyo, meron tayong repository of evidence-based prevention intervention. Prevention providers often use registries to select the best prevention programs for the targeted population. And the best registries is what? Identify prevention strategies with strongest available evidence of effectiveness. Diba? Titingnan mo yan, meron ba siyang strongest available evidence of effectiveness? Specify the population for which they have been evaluated. Saan population to na-evaluate? So kung nagmamatch yon sa target population mo, say it's at the result of the evaluation is from 12 years old to 16 years old, and it matches your target population, that could be used, no? Specify the population for which they have been evaluated. Permit a search, no, on the characteristics of both the strategies and population of interest. Now, the problem with the registries, first, they may rely on whatever evidence of effectiveness is submitted by the individual or organization that has asked for the review. So thus the evidence review may not be include the result of an evaluation that have not yielded evidence of effectiveness. And the published assessment also may not incorporate new evidence that becomes available. So registries also vary as to how they present evidence. For example, we have the National Registry of Evidence-Based Programs and Practices, known as the United States Ndep. So it summarizes program effects on key outcomes. And also, we also have the blueprints. I want you to screenshot this one kasi ito ay repository of evidence-based program. I want you to look at blueprints programs. Pag tinignan po ninyo yung blueprints program, may mga available na siya na mga... Can I share my screen? Can I share my screen? I-share ko lang itong aking pong blueprints para makita nila for our audience to see. No? Okay, may I ask the help of our technical team to share my screen sa blueprints. Okay? Alright. Yung screen ko po. Okay. Para lang makita, they will go back again to the PowerPoint ni Ma'am. Okay, ito live demonstration ng ating pong registry. Okay. Okay. Did you see my screen na, sir? Yung Pastor LJ. Mag-stop sharing muna si ma'am, tapos ako naman yung sa akin. Share po ninyo. Blueprints. Okay. Alright, sorry to interrupt, but very important, makita po ninyo ito para at least alam ninyo, meron palang repository ng evidence-based program. Okay. I did share my screen. Kita mo na, sir? Okay, I'll share it again. All right. Ganito talaga pag live. Okay. So, please add my screen. Kita niyo na po? Okay. Alright, sir. Hindi po ata nakita yung ating screen from the technical side. Ma'am Dara, I'm asking the technical to share my screen. Yung isang ano ko for, yes, that's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Kita na po.
Okay, no? Ito yung sinasabi natin na repository of evidence-based prevention intervention. One of those is the blueprints, no? Si blueprints, pag tinignan po natin, I'm giving you a sample, ang kanyang mga intervention, meron siyang promising, meron siyang model, meron siyang, dalawa lang, promising and model, no? Okay. Now, say I want to look into programs. Ano kaya ang mga programs na gusto kong tignan kay Blueprints? Find programs. Okay. Halimbawa, gusto nyo meron kayong target population. Sinong target population ninyo? Anong age? Halimbawa, you are addressing, since we are in the Department of Education, we want to address middle school, for example. Okay, click natin si middle school. Di ba? Okay. Anong specific programs ang gusto natin? Program type. Halimbawa, sa issue ng bullying, you want to prevent bullying. So, pwede nyo siya na hahanapin, yung program. You search the categories. So, meron siyang 20 programs available. Okay. O kaya, the best way to do it is to just type the problem. Ano ba? You want to address marijuana. Kasi yan ang problemang substance, halimbawa sa inyo. Okay. Dali po Okay. So dahil nag-type ko kanina, ito sa bullying, meron na siyang pinakitang program. So meron dalawang promising program. Kung nalito na ako. Balikan ko lang. Okay. So wala pang Teka, wait sandali po. I'm looking at marijuana. Ito talaga actual natin na tingin tayo ng program. Kuha na ako ng isang program na pwede nating makita talaga. Okay, so halimbawa ito life skills training, no? Okay, ito yung isa sa program na pwede nating makita. Nakalagay na dito yung mga outcomes niya. Pag itong ginamit mo, ina-address mo na to na yung alcohol, yung delinquency, criminal behavior, illicit drugs, sexual risk behaviors, STIs, tobacco, violence. So hindi lang drug prevention or substance use prevention in-address mo, kung hindi marami pang mga social or behavioral problems na natatarget. So ano ang continuum of intervention niya? This is for the universal prevention, meaning to say general population, ano? And this is for between age 12 to 14. Okay? Tapos nandiyan dyan na yung, makikita nyo na yung program cost, ano yung evaluation, etc. Okay, so that's why I said a while ago na inyo pong i-screenshot yung sa repository because that would be very, very helpful for you, no, to look into available evidence. Kasi may nagtanong sa akin, ano ba yung intervention na pwede kong magamit, Pastor? Meron ba talaga? So pinakita natin yung yung ating pong available registry, no, repository of our registry. Now let's move on. Let's go back to our PowerPoint. Okay, so ano yung mga gagawin natin? Steps for selecting a prevention, intervention, and policy. So we define the target population. What is the age group? Male or female or both? What is the level of risk the strategy needs to address? It can be targeted population that can be easily be defined as you want to address it, no? Because this is the available program you want. At dito I'm in slide 7.39. All right. So can they also participate? Will they be able to take the time? Will they be willing? If not, how can their needs be accommodated? Okay. The next is we define the aims and the goals and objectives. So ang aim natin, these are the long-term purpose or intention of the intervention. For example, you want to reduce rates of substance use, no, children staying in school, or infants forming warm attachment to their mothers. Right? So ano yung goal natin? So a statement of programs, outcomes for participants at completion of the intervention, objectives, immediate or intermediate outcomes necessary to achieve a goal. Next slide. Is the setting relevant for the target population? Does the setting support the evidence base? Okay, kung halimbawa ang setting school, is the school supporting the evidence-based program? Is the setting accessible for the intervention? Pag sinabi nating setting, ito yung place wherein we do our or conduct our intervention. Reviewing an existing intervention. Are there any existing EBI that address our prevention plan? Has the EBI been monitored or evaluated? Did we document the program? In terms of planning the evaluation, so outcome evaluation focuses on determining if the intervention achieved the goals and objectives that you propose. So process evaluation determines if the intervention have been implemented as planned in order to achieve the outcomes of the program. Next is the preparation and the implementation of the intervention policy. Kung nakita mo na yung repository of the evidence base, you were able to match what evidence-based intervention you are going to use based on the needs and resource assessment. Now you do the preparation and implementation of the intervention. And what you are going to do? Okay. Now, preparing for the intervention, several actions or steps need to be followed. First, secure the resources required. Do you have a budget? No, budget must be developed to determine the financial resources needed to prepare and deliver the interventions as well as an inventory to implement the intervention at it was intended or designed by your group, and then build the team. Okay, now you have the team that you're going to select to be part of the team or implementer. And then, recruit and retain. Sino yung, ang recruit, retain, recruit mo yung mga dadalo doon sa yung intervention. It is important to obtain consent of the participants, especially when they are children in schools. Take note, mga Ndep coordinators, hindi natin sila basta pina-attend sa natin. Kailangan alam din ng magulang na sila ay nag-undergo ng intervention. For example, parents and guardians are required to sign a written consent when activities out of the regular academic course will be delivered in the classroom. When working with families, it is important that their participation is voluntary. This means that ethical principles need to be taken into consideration at all times. So the desired need for high participation rates in the program must not trump ethical consideration. Hindi yung gusto mo marami tapos hindi ka naman nagpaalam. Pero consent and assent. Especially when you are recording the intervention. Di ba meron yan, nire-record pa nga. No? Kung 1 hour sila dun sa intervention, naka-record, naka-video. Di ba? And you have to take permission that it will be recorded. Even in Zoom, di ba? Sa Zoom, pagka-recorded ng meeting, nakalagay pa nga dun eh. Di ba? This is recorded. You have to agree that you are attending a meeting which is recorded. Yun yung tinatawag na consent and assent. No? So now, prepare program materials depending on the kind of intervention or policy to be implemented. You will need to prepare for materials. If it's a school intervention, you will require materials for teachers and materials for students. So what else? Let's move on to the next slide in the implementation. So for the implementation, so we pilot the intervention. A pilot trial of the intervention will allow you to see how the major elements of the intervention works in a small sample of your target population. Say you have only 10 persons and then make adjustment before going to a larger scale of doing the intervention. Very important to do pilot testing, and Ndep is used to do pilot testing. No? Even in intervention, we must able to do a pilot testing because we are looking at two things, di ba? Efficacy and effectiveness of the program. When we say efficacy, we are looking at the short-term goal of the program. Naabot ba natin ng yung short-term goal natin? Yung effectiveness of the program, did we reach our long-term goal? And so if you are able to get the long-term goal, in fact, meron pa nga intermediate, nakita natin kanina, no? Mamaya kita natin sa outline, sa outcome, meron pang intermediate. So you do the pilot testing, very important, no? Looking at the efficacy and effectiveness of the program. And then you are moving upscale. No? That is part of the research cycle. So implementing, after completing the pilot implementation, you will probably have an idea about its effectiveness and feasibility as well as its compliance with ethical considerations. You are now ready to begin the implementation of the activities of the intervention. Most of the interventions will require training of the implementers. If you are a teacher or a community worker, expect to be trained in the specific skills you need to deliver, for example, the intervention that have been selected. So meron talagang training ito, no? Ito ang ating mga Ndep coordinators, I really congratulate you because your division, the health division, is training you, no, in the prevention work. No, talagang kung sa pangatlong slide ba natin kanina, sino ba yung may big idea pagdating sa prevention? Kayo yun. 'Di ba? You are the face of prevention. 'Di ba? Kayo yung na-train, kayo yung may kakayanan ngayon, kayo yung nakakaintindi ngayon how to implement properly prevention intervention. Kaya may sinusundan tayong life cycle of the implementation. Now we do monitoring. Monitoring also documents all that has been done and not only serves as guide to you, but also provides material for reports. And also we do adjustment. And this is very important because it guarantees that the necessary actions are taken, no, in order to improve the implementation of the intervention. Kaya nakikita natin saan tayo nagkamali, anong kulang natin, di ba? So we adjust it. Now, let's go to the outcomes or the chain of outcomes. So we have the short term. Next slide, ma'am, slide 7.48. So we have short term. We have the most direct results of the activities and outputs. We also have the intermediate and link a program's short-term outcomes to long-term outcomes. So it bridges, no, between the short and the long-term outcome. And then for the long-term outcome, results from the achievement of the short and intermediate term outcomes and often take a longer time to achieve. So you cannot get it pagkatapos ng programa mo, gusto mo long-term outcome. Hindi. It can be achieved, no, over time as you continue with your prevention intervention. Okay, next, let's go to the monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation may appear to be a sixth phase, no, of the implementation cycle. But please note that there are arrows pointing to all phases, no, where monitoring and evaluation has an influence. So meaning to say, from the start of your assessment, particularly in the selection, ano, kasi nandun nakatutok yung ano, nag-i-evaluate ka na, minomonitor mo na. There are things that you need to monitor and evaluate, especially in the selection of evidence base, and then in the course of your preparation and implementation up to the evaluation, no? The actual evaluation of the program. Now, what are the points that we need to consider now before conducting an evaluation? The purpose of the evaluation, no, you're looking at that. What is going to be evaluated? You have to identify what needs to be evaluated. You're going to evaluate with the attendance, ang tawag dito, the schedule of the program, okay, with the curriculum itself. Tatlong bagay ang tinitingnan natin diyan, 'di ba? Yung structure, content, and delivery of the program. Tandaan natin that evidence-based program intervention consists of three: the structure, the content, and how the program is being delivered. Now, who would be interested in the evaluation outcomes and why? Sino ba interested? Maybe yung inyong supporter or funder, maybe the policymaker, maybe our superintendent or principal is concerned with our intervention. What is your timeline? Is it realistic? What do you intend to do with the evaluation result? What resources are available for the evaluation? For example, the time, money, the expertise, and what is your purpose of your evaluation? Now, next slide, an evaluation is conducted to obtain answers to the following. Level of impact. Kanina binanggit yun ni Yusek Earl. We're looking at the impact. What is the level of impact? May impact ba itong pinagagagawa natin sa prevention? Are we anchored on the Philippine Anti-Drug Strategy, the PADS? Are we anchored on the national government in terms of prevention? Okay, so let's look at the level of impact. To what extent did the program achieve the desired outcomes? And where the level of this outcome significantly greater than if no program were delivered. So pag tinignan nyo kanina, yung pinakita kong graph sa inyo, the trajectory is the 1990s, di ba? There is a significant decrease because in the 1980s, meron ng mga advertisement on cigarettes, tumaas yung paggamit. Pero late ng 90s, late 90s, no, as early as the 21st century, nakita natin na mayroong significant decline simply because there is prevention. May mga counter-arguing advertisement, may mga ginagawa na sa panahon natin, yung mga, we have enabling policies, no, that significantly drop, no, the use of cigarettes and alcohol. Now, what about the reach? No? To what extent did the program achieve the same outcomes for everyone who participated or only to certain groups? What about the cost? To what extent did the benefit of the program outweigh the cost of the program itself? And comparison, to what extent is one program more effective than another, holding cost constant? All right, so now next slide. Okay, monitoring and evaluation. We have monitoring, or what we call process evaluation. You know this already. And we have also outcome evaluation. So pagka monitoring or process in the course of the implementation. Pag outcome evaluation, after that you have implemented it, you are looking at defining the planning phase, and you are trying to align with objectives of the intervention. Did we achieve our desired goal? The short-term, intermediate, and the long-term goal. And then what kind of evaluation is best when implementing an evidence-based intervention? So we have monitoring or process evaluation. You monitor the data, you're collecting data, data collection. And the next slide points us to the logic model, no, of this monitoring and evaluation system. So from here, you can see, now that you know about processes, no, in terms of evaluation and outcome evaluation, let us see how they are represented in the monitoring and evaluation system. It is important to note that a full of evaluation of a prevention intervention must include both program, the inputs and the outputs. No? That is what we call monitoring or process evaluation, as well as the short, intermediate, and long-term outcomes, or the outcome evaluation. And please note that process evaluation or monitoring is very important even when an evaluation is not planned, as it documents the delivery of the prevention intervention. What is going on in the program? Who is being reached, no? And how much of the prevention program was received. Okay? Now, next slide. Okay? We are not going to do that anymore, so let's proceed to the next slide. Okay, mga data collection, 7.57 slide, next slide. So we have data collection, we are looking at attendance, no? May mga sign sheets, may mga sino yung instructor, need to complete the form. Okay, next. Assessment forms, siyempre andyan yung participants, saka yung instructor. Next, tingnan natin. Okay, so we're done with that. Let's go to 7.60. Okay, 7.60. Okay, now, here, the last thing that we are looking at is dissemination and improvement. As we have said, na-implement mo na, okay, nag-evaluate ka na, the final phase is dissemination and improvement. That informs the whole process. Now, once again, perhaps providing more information regarding the needs and resource assessment, program selection, as well as preparing for intervention delivery. So what happens in this case, no? Once you have the result of your process, no, or outcomes, the outcome evaluation, you will be able to share the results of the interventions with your stakeholders. So besides, you will be able to determine what can be improved in the intervention to achieve, no, even better results. As you can see now in your screen, so determine the continuation of the intervention. Are we going to continue with the intervention? Are we going to disseminate information about the programs? Okay, of course, the final report, or continuous quality of improvement. Okay, so, or are we going to implement the program across other population? Ang ganda na nun pagka ang program natin across other population, meaning to say, if we pilot it to this school and the result is okay, and then we go to other school because now it's cascading to other school because you get the nice, desired outcome. All right. Now, determining the continuation, is there sufficient funding? Especially, no, titignan pa rin natin yung funding even if you want to do it across other population. But the question still, do we have enough funds to do that? Are the results worth the effort? Was the intervention and implementation high quality? Okay. What difficulties were encountered? Is it necessary to continue? Okay, so disseminating the result, you plan for it in the budget, promote the program, no, adds to evidence base for substance use prevention, report, no, unintended outcomes, and when intervention is consistently effective, it leverages for more support and continuation. Okay, next slide. And okay, so we see the final report, and then I have mentioned already this continuous quality of the improvement. Kaya pagka nandun na tayo, we continue for the quality improvement, we plan and document all the changes to be made, no, in the process, so that when you conduct again the program, then you inform, no, that there is a need of revising it, and you will be able to better get, no, the result, no, the outcome that you want. Okay, so last slide. So you see, in summary, so we have previewed the implementation cycle, which has given us a framework of what to ask, what to plan for, and what to do throughout the process of implementing evidence-based prevention intervention in the community, more specifically in our school. Unlike the knee-jerk approach, no, often proposed by officials wanting to do something about the problem, and in which is often the wrong thing is being done. We have been engaged, no, in a rational and systematic approach to understanding our communities, identifying the population at risk, finding interventions that can be addressed, no, those populations, and planning at this stage a way to select, implement and evaluate interventions that we can use when we go back again face to face, no, training with our students. With that, that's the end of our slide. Thank you so much. Okay, there's no module evaluation, and back to our host. Sorry to extend. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much, Pastor LJ.
Maraming salamat po, Pastor LJ, for such a noteworthy and substantial input. We are pretty sure that all our prevention workers now can describe the 6 basic components of implementation cycle of prevention interventions. You also stressed that prevention interventions should be evidence-based. So we hope that they were also able to grasp the essentials and significance and will be able to apply these learnings. So paalala po sa ating mga viewers, you can post your questions and comments on our comment section.
Yes, once again, daghan kaayong salamat, Pastor LJ, no? Ang topic po ni Pastor LJ will serve as a guide in ensuring that your prevention programming is anchored on the right process and will be sustainable through properly identifying the implementation steps in each phase and of the implementation cycle. So once again, maraming salamat, Pastor LJ. And now, it's time to read some very relevant comments and feedbacks from our viewers po, no? Nurse Rino?
Yes, Nurse Dara. So I have here a comment from Rolando Boboy Lubiano, Niepes. Thanks so much for uh, thanks so much for that great thoughts you've shared, Pastor LJ.
Thank you.
Okay. At galing din kay Mr. Mark Anthony D. Collen, Master Teacher 2. The speaker is well-versed to his topic. The learnings we gain will surely multiply, and this Ndep webinar is really informative. Wow, so very nice, no? Pastor LJ, we have umabot po tayo ng more than 3,000 viewers for this
Wow.
afternoon
Thank you.
webinar series. So I'm so happy, no? So from iba't iba pong parte ng Pilipinas, meron pong Romblon, Laguna, Albay, Marinduque, Ilocos Norte, Davao City, Misamis Oriental, of course, Cagayan de Oro, Hingog City, Tangog Division, Surigao, at marami pa po. So congratulations, Pastor LJ, and thank you very much.
And for more feedbacks, questions, and comments, the link is being flashed on our screen. So you can post or write your comments on the link provided. You just click the link and post your comments.
So another
So we
comment
also have-
is from
Yes, Nurse Dara.
another comment is from
have
Lorna B. Poillo. Sabi niya, efficacy and effectiveness of the program. Sana ba yun? Efficacy and effectiveness of the program are needed in steps for preparation and implementation of the intervention policy.
We also have from Maureen M. Petino, Teacher 2, Piat Elementary School, Division of Batangas City, Region 4A. This session is very helpful nowadays, especially now that some of us is suffering from mental illness due to pandemic. And another from Marivic Indonto, very informative, watching from Olar ES, DepEd Misamis Occidental.
And we have another positive comments from Sir Rolito Mendoza from Batangas Province, Region 4, Calabarzon. Sabi niya, I learned that preventive drug education is like a vaccine that offers immunity to drug addiction as well as the tips on how to develop healthy mind, And it also broadened my idea about implementation cycle, prevention, and intervention.
Okay, mayroon pa ba, Nurse Dara?
So I think that's all.
Siguro. No? So, Pastor LJ, as a symbol of our appreciation for your expertise, time, and effort shared to us, will now award you the Certificate of Appreciation. Republic of the Philippines, Department of Education, Bureau of Learner Support Services, DepEd Complex, Meralco Avenue, Pasig City. The Certificate of Appreciation is awarded to Little Jones B. Espeleta for sharing his expertise as a resource person in the session titled The Implementation Cycle of Prevention Intervention as part of the 2021 National Drug Education Program webinar series conducted on 23 September 2021, 2 to 3:30 p.m., given this 23rd day of September 2021. Signed, Maria Corazon Sidumlao, MD, MPH, DBHI, Chief School Health Division. Signed, Lopi B. Santos III, OIC Director for Bureau of Learner Support Services. And signed, Alain Del B. Pasqua, Undersecretary for Administration. Muli, maraming salamat po. Kami po ay taos-pusong nagpapasalamat sa inyo, Pastor LJ.
Thank you so much, Pastor LJ.
Salamat din po.
Okay, so reminders po no para sa mga participants po natin, mga ka-Ndep. Ang registration po ay using the link na nakikita natin sa screen na using the enrollment key na Ndep WSP2. I repeat, Ndep WSP2. Ito po ay required to access the course through the DepEd Professional Development Learning Management System. And you only have to register only once, no? No need na po to register for every episode. So once lang po tayo magpa-register.
The presentation materials will also be accessed and downloaded from the Professional Development Learning Management System website after each webinar. DepEd personnel, please don't forget to register. Nurse Dara, paano po makakuha ng certificate?
Yes, Nurse Rino, certificates are generated through the DepEd Professional Development Learning Management System, no? And upon registration, participants are provided with an enrollment key, yung binigay po namin kanina, and which they can use to access the Ndep webinar series course in the system. So, importante po ang enrollment key. So, Nurse Rino?
So ang mga naka-register po na mga participants ay kailangan i-accomplish ang evaluation form sa pamamagitan ng link na naka-flash sa ating screen
10.
upang makakuha ng Certificate of Attendance para sa sesyon na ito. Okay, so yan po ang ating link para maka-access sa ating website para makakuha ng ating Certificate of Participation, or Certificate of Attendance.
Yes.
So mga DepEd, we've gone this far in our preventive drug education program amidst the challenges of the existing crisis. And as a sort of recap, we commenced this webinar series 2 last June 24 with episode 1 on the topic, Helping Youth Stay Drug-Free Through Literacy. It was facilitated by Health Professor Grace Boca Pandi, Director of the ASEAN Training Center for Preventive Drug Education of the University of the Philippines. The very significant insight from her topic was the quote from Wilson that states, "The school is not about repairing all the social evils. It is about repairing one, the evil of ignorance.
The second episode was last July 22 po with the topic Psychosocial Support for Students at Risk of Substance Abuse presented by Dr. Marie Grace Gomez, a registered guidance counselor and a professor in the College of Education at the University of the Philippines, Diliman. She reiterated that the individual and peer risk factors were strongly related to lifetime and recent use of cigarettes, alcohol, and marijuana. This is according to the study of Cleveland of 2008.
Yes, Ma'am Lara. And prior to this episode, Assistant Professor Maria Cecilia Zamora of the College of Education, University of the Philippines, Diliman, talked about the topic, Going the Distance, Online Delivery of Preventive Drug Education. A remarkable insight she had shared is the statement from Stahl that says, preventive drug education is like a vaccine because it offers immunity to drug addiction, even without being addicted beforehand. Therefore, we need to strengthen this area in the students' health education curriculum.
So, we only have one episode left mga ka-DepEd, no? At inaanyayahan po namin kayong lahat to join us again this coming October 28, which we have another significant and relevant topic po. No, the title po for next webinar series, number 5 is the importance of life skills and in drug prevention. At ang speaker po natin ay si Mr. Santaner Tedranes Iray, the Chief Trainer of Drug Check Philippines Incorporated. So mga ka-DepEd, magkita-kita po tayo muli sa October 28.
Yes, Ma'am Dara. Bago po natin ipakilala ang ating mga magagaling na host sa susunod na episode, balikan muna natin ang ating video tour entitled Biyahing DS.
Covers a total land area of 17,885 square kilometers with total number of 84 municipalities and 2,022 barangays respectively. It is bounded by the Mindanao Sea on the north, Western Mindanao on the west, Caraga region on the east, and regions 11 and 12 on the south. It is composed of 5 provincial schools division, namely Bukidnon, Camiguin, Lanao del Norte, Misamis Occidental, and Misamis Oriental, with 9 city schools divisions, namely Malaybalay City, Valencia City, Cagayan de Oro City, Hingoog City, El Salvador City, Iligan City, Ozami City, Oroquieta City, and Tangub City. Aside from being the entry point of Mindanao, the region is blessed with amazing beaches and natural resources. It boasts of numerous tourist attractions, the most famous being the whitewater rafting in the rivers of Cagayan de Oro City, the white beaches of Iligan City and Camiguin, and the Dahilayan Adventure Park of Bukidnon, to mention a few. Northern Mindanao is rich with various kinds of topography. There are plains, forests, mountains, hills, and coastal areas. The area supports agricultural and aquaculture. The soil is rich in minerals. There are hydroelectric plants to provide steady supply of electricity. Northern Mindanao has a wealth of natural resources. Northern Mindanao is the country's top producer of pineapple, banana, corn production, and chicken production. From the country's home to a variety of wildlife, a marine sanctuary, and host coastline is a nesting site of the endangered marine turtles. A place not only known for its bountiful harvest on land and on sea, but also for its richness in culture, which can be seen in their numerous festivals. From the home of the country's only authentic ethnic festival, the land of beauty and bounty. A place not only famous for a city of waterfalls, but also for its people, which offers golden friendship. From the island born of fire, where love and joy never dies. Region 10, Northern Mindanao, Amihan ng Mindanao.
Wow, napakagandang presentasyon po, Nurse Rino. So, we look forward, mga ka-DepEd, to seeing you again soon in this vast and progressive region. And para po ma-experience po ninyong lahat ang stunning at scenic spots dito sa Region 10 at saka po ang warmth of its people. So, we invite you all to come here. So, pagkatapos ng pandemic, pwede po kayong pumunta dito sa Region 10, Amihan ng Mindanao.
Okay, so we'll proceed, Nurse Dara. I'm sure ang ating mga ka-DepEd are all now thrilled who and from where our next host for the next and last episode of our 2021 webinar series. I've been there in the region, Nurse Dara, a few years ago, and I'm hoping to visit their beautiful place again. It's up now to reveal them. Ladies and gentlemen, a warm round of virtual applause to our contemporaries from Region 2, Cagayan Valley Region. We have Nurse Precious Talusig, Division Ndep Coordinator of DepEd Santiago City, Isabela, and Nurse Nico Salvador, Division Ndep Coordinator of DepEd Quirino Province.
Hello po, Nurse Precious, and hello po, Nurse Nico. Si Nurse Nico po, may problema, nag-brown out po sa city nila, sa Santiago City. Pero si Nurse Nico po, kasama ko po yan sa Bataan, sa Balanga City, sa aming pong training for the National Pole of Tobacco Control Trainer Advocate. So, welcome po, Nurse Nico and Nurse Precious, And good luck po sa inyong presentation for the next webinar series, episode 5. Good luck po.
Hello, Nurse Dara and Nurse Reno. Kami po sa Region 2 ay okay na okay. And to our live viewers all over the Philippines, from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, okay na okay afternoon po sa ating lahat. We are from the home of breathtaking rolling hills and mountains, cool breeze of fresh air and blue seas, majestic waterfalls, evergreen forests, and jaw-dropping caves. A place with many century-old historical landmarks and electrifying festivals. Surely, a one-stop destination for travelers looking for a magnificent view and unforgettable experience. A place that is abundant in hills and mountains that are high enough to see the sea of clouds. A place that has a lot of stunning beaches and islands perfect for those who love the sun and the sea. An administrative region in the Philippines that is composed of 5 provinces, namely Batanes, Cagayan, Isabela, Nueva Vizcaya, and Quirino. And of course, we also have Kawayan, Ilagan, Santiago, and Tuguegarao as the 4 major cities in the region. All the way from northeastern Luzon, your islands and Valley of Fan, Cagayan Valley, Region 2. Ako po si Nurse Precious ng SDO Santiago City, Division Ndep Focal Person. On behalf of my partner, Nurse Nico, who will be with me on our October episode, this is to remind you, you can be all what you wanted to be. That's why I choose to be drug-free.
Wow! Excited na po ako, and I'm sure excited ka na rin, Nurse Dara, for the next episode.
Yes,
and of
excited
course, ang ating mga ka-DepEd sa napakaganda at kapansin-pansin at malakuryente na mga tanawin and tourist attraction sa Region 2. Muli po, welcome and good luck sa inyo on the next episode.
Yes, good luck po sa inyo, Ma'am Precious and Sir Nico.
Before anything else, we would like to greet and thank RD Arturo Bayocot, ARD Victor de Gracia Jr., ESSD Chief Marion Hill Talosig, Regional Medical Officer Dr. Myra Yee, and Regional Dentist and Ndep Coordinator Dr. Ray Ignacio Caga. Doc Ray, daghan kayong salamat for your support and for this rare opportunity and trust.
Yes, I would like to take this opportunity also to say daghan kaayong salamat Ma'am Girly Asorin, Ma'am Robeline, Ma'am Michelle Ann, and Ma'am Ermina for the technical assistance. Daghan kaayong salamat. Our Ndep Regional Coordinator, Dr. Ray Ignacio Cagang. Doc Ray, thank you so much for the trust and confidence na binigay niyo sa amin ni Sir Rino. To our SDS of Hingaog City Division, Dr. Jester Dems Torres, to our ASDS, Ma'am Mary Ann Aliera, to our Medical Officer, Dr. Joseph Tristan Benedict Raffles, to our dentist in charge, Dr. Rolly Bermodo, and Dr. Jimmy Ong with Sir JV Alava, thank you. To my co-nurses, Marvin Astetre, Lindel Sahilan, Darisa Pineda, Jenny Catherine Villegas, and Lorraine Hagonos, thank you very much. And to all Region 10 nurses, maraming salamat po. And to all Ndep coordinators of Hingaog City Division and Region 10, daghan kaayong salamat and God bless us all.
Yes, and I would like to thank also the technical team. It's been a pleasure working with you today for this webinar series. My warmest greetings and acknowledgement also to SEPS Girly Azurin, SDS Randolph Tortula, ASDS Lanela Palapar and Odi Bores, SGOD Chief Artemio Ray Adahar, Division Medical Officer Dr. Maria Maya Lona, and all the school health personnel and school Ndep BKD coordinators of DepEd Bukidnon, Division BKD Coordinator Roniel June Esteva, District in Charge Gigi Tulitol, School Principal Dr. Virgilia Pancho, and Teacher Clint Erving Clement of Libona National High School. Thank you very much.
Finally, and before we officially close this fourth episode, the Bureau of Learners Support Services School Health Division would like to thank the following:
Dangerous Drugs Board,
ASEAN Training Center for Preventive Drug Education,
Information and Communications Technology Service,
Public Affairs Service,
Youth for Mission Division,
DepEd Regional Offices,
School Health and Nutrition personnel all over the country.
and of course, to all of you mga ka-DepEd, daghan kaayong salamat sa pag-usab. God bless us all and have a wonderful and safe day ahead. Maraming salamat po.
Mabuhay ang mga kabataang Pilipino at ang lahat ng bumubuo ng Department of Education. See you on the next episode, mga ka-DepEd. God bless and keep safe everyone.
Bye-bye po.